not a multiple of 3.
Okay.
I had 6 left, and then I did 2, and it was like, good job. Now I have 4, and so like if I do 3 more, I'm gonna do a good job, and then like 1 that I can't do. Like,
yeah. Sorry, I was just saying something to test the audio mixing. I didn't really register what you were saying.
okay.
I feel like that can't be right though.
Well, I think it's might be a bug. I don't know. Seems like it might be a bug.
It would be so weird for, you know, like we're 10 years after the release of Obra Dinn or some shit. You know?
I know, but I'm just telling you, it confirms 2 at once and not 3 at once.
Well, I hope you were recording it.
I was not.
No.
I have my save file.
I knew that, frankly. Your save file won't help you, though. Sorry. Like, what are you gonna do? Submit it, and Lucas Pope will go, that's weird.
Yeah.
That shouldn't happen. This seems unlikely, he says to himself.
And then he patches it. He manually edits my save file and sends it back to
me. Yeah. I mean, it's more likely than you might think. Really. Honestly. You know? But at the same time, like, no, it's not gonna happen.
I'm not the first person to have this problem.
You might be.
No, I'm looking at a Steam thread.
Oh.
Of people who have had this problem.
In that case, I completely, like, capitulate, man. Fair enough. I don't really understand what's going on, but more importantly, I don't care.
Well, I think that there is a special logic in the game for confirming a number that's not a multiple of 3. If you're down to the last 2 that you can't do, so hopefully if I get these other 2 of 4 that I can theoretically do, it'll just work anyway.
That makes sense to me.
So, I gotta figure out what's up with this Alexander guy. No, I think I know what his deal is. I have to figure out what that's about this John Howells guy. Or is it Happels? I can't tell because this font is bad. No, it's
what
it's
is it in
Happels.
Russian though?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
That's not really useful to me.
Like this letter is either a P or an L, but because of the way it's rendered, it's like not really clear. It's either John Howells or John Happels. But neither of those seems like a real name. So he's Welsh though.
Howells seems like a real name.
Yeah, it's probably Howells, but it does look like a P. Just saying.
Okay.
But no, I think it is Howells anyway. So I have to figure out his fate, and all I know is he bled out because his foot got cut off. And there was a conspicuous saber on the ground, but I don't think that the Persian guy cut his foot off with a saber and then ran away with it.
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy. What a wild thing to do that.
I mean, on the other hand, sometimes you're really feeling it. What can I say?
And then he didn't get caught? Like, are we just going to pretend he didn't get caught?
They were just like, okay, it better not happen again.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm just solving puzzles like a P-cross, basically. You know Picross?
No. Oh, Picross. I've seen that, and I assumed it was Picross, but maybe it will be Picross.
I don't really know either, frankly. You know, Nintendo, they're Japanese. They don't even have the vowel in Picross. Is that dispositive? I don't know. Anyway, I'm doing a bunch of those. Like, it's not that, just to be clear. It's not that, but it's kind of like that.
Not that at all.
Yeah.
Not this.
Are you making a reference to the Mitchell and Webb skit about? Not that. That's a good skit. I love that skit.
Pretty good.
It's recorded in the Western canon. That's all I have to say about that.
So I'm in this memory, and I'm remembering fondly when I discovered the two guys that were the printers. At which point, I immediately pegged the white man as the carpenter and the black man as the assistant carpenter. At which point, I was deemed racist, and Lucas Pope sent my information to someone.
Your social credit score has been one has been deducted from your social credit score.
Yeah, but come on, this was the 1800s. Like, these guys are Americans. You're just pretending that's not a thing.
Fair enough. Like, what can I say?
They're from America.
Are they? I think they're English, actually. I don't know. A couple of them probably have American accents.
Looking at the ship's log, the carpenter and assistant carpenter are the two Americans on board.
Is their nationality recorded? It's been a while since I played the game.
Their nationality is recorded as America.
Fair enough. The greatest,
their country of origin.
Nationality in the world.
Yeah. Anyway, that's not relevant to the current problem.
Let me tell you something. That I've never told anyone before, not because it's scandalous, just because it's not important in any way. Sometimes I think about, like, wow, it's crazy that I was born in America. Like, objectively, I'm not saying like morally or spiritually, right? Just objectively, one of the greatest countries on the earth, in that sense of greatest. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's just like a nice place to be born.
Yeah, but also like powerful and stuff.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Yeah. But then I think, wait a minute. America is powerful because it has many citizens. And I am a citizen of America. Hold on. Wait a minute. That means it's not actually that surprising that I was born in America. Or is it? Anyway.
Just because that has a lot of citizens.
Yeah.
So it's one of them was bound to be you, perhaps. I mean, yeah, but think about how many people are in China. You could have been Chinese.
I could have been Chinese.
But would that have been you?
But, equal odds, right? More or less.
I don't think so. Like, there are way more people in China than in America.
I doubt it. I doubt way more. Certainly, there are a couple more.
Look up
Do it.
Population of China.
No balls, you won't.
I'm doing it right now. Population of China, 1.4 billion.
Okay.
Population of the U.S. is like 300 million, I think.
All right. Do that division.
340 million. Okay.
That's like 4 or something, if I had to guess.
1.4 divided by 0.34 is like 4.1. Yeah, so like 4 times more likely to be Chinese than.
There we go.
If that were how that worked.
Yes.
So I feel like I won that one, but maybe you also feel like you did.
No, I agree. I agree with you.
Okay.
I think. I'm just like, significant odds that I would be American, and go like, wow, this whole American thing we're doing, crazy, huh?
Okay, but like think about how many people are on the Earth.
Okay.
Like 8 billion, right? Maybe it was like 7 billion when we were born.
I can neither confirm nor deny that, but go on.
But like, if you look at those odds, yeah, it's like a 5% chance of being an American if you're just a random person.
Those are pretty good odds. Those are pretty good odds.
I guess.
Yeah. I know. Sometimes
okay, what about...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, like, sometimes I consider the anthropic principle, and I'm like, what the heck? That's basically my whole thought.
Please refresh my memory on what anthropic principle.
It's basically like the fact that you exist affords some evidence about the nature of existence. But how exactly you want to cash that out is a little bit controversial, you know?
I was just thinking about this in the shower today.
It's a classic shower thought kind of impression of the world to have.
Yeah, I was thinking about, like, how would I convince... If I had, for example, like an atheist girlfriend, how would I convince her that God is real so she could be my wife?
This is let's
it's like,
let's
yes, philosophy, of course.
Okay.
This one.
I'm your atheist girlfriend. I'm like, I don't think God is real. Go ahead. This ball's in your court.
I don't know if I'm ready for this.
No, you probably are not. I mean, women are, God bless them. Women are probably like, they're like, oh, you believe in God? Sure. I'll also believe in God. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah,
I think it depends on the woman.
Yeah, I totally believe in God. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Oh, that God guy?
So, we'll do that.
Definitely there. Thumbs up.
Forced smile.
I wouldn't even describe it as forced, honestly. I would describe it as polite.
True. That's polite smile, yeah.
They'd be like, listen, I've been a woman for years. I've learned the way of the world. Yep. God real. Don't worry about it.
And yet, the woman who would respond that way is not the woman I would want to marry.
Ooh. But she would have to make a more convincing case that she believes God was real.
Yeah, she has to make me believe it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, as a man who doesn't believe in God himself, I'm like, yeah, whatever. If my wife is like, God is real, I'd be like, that's great, honey. Here's hoping, am I right? But that's not really the way things traditionally work out, and that's fine.
I mean, it depends on who's involved.
Right. Well, I don't know if this is what you're referring to, but traditionally, you marry a woman, that woman converts to your religion. And that's just the way of the world. And because all religions are fake, I think that's fine. Maybe I would have a different opinion if I didn't believe that thing I believed, but hey,
Well, I think that used to be the way of the world. I don't think that is.
Oh, yeah? I haven't.
Seems like nowadays, well, I don't know, it depends on where you are, but it seems like a lot of times it's like, guys will just go along with whatever their wife says because they don't care, and the wife might care. So
that's now that you mention
the more based version where the wife converts.
So now that you've mentioned it, I do believe I've seen that sort of thing, and fair enough to those guys, obviously. But yeah, fair enough. I guess I didn't have more on account of me not believing in any of them. So,
well, sort of the starting point of the argument I was thinking about in the shower, which I don't expect to convince you, but
based.
Might as well present it.
Sure, go ahead. I'm
like,
always willing to appreciate a presentation, even if I'm like, well, that had no chance whatsoever. But thanks.
Yeah. So if we just consider the fact that things exist.
Okay, I'm with you so far.
We're like, okay, well, it seems like something exists because we have experience, right?
I'm with you so far.
So, like, if we consider the ways that this may have come about, none of them really seems plausible, in my opinion. Like, it all emerged from nothingness. Absurd.
I think.
But is that perhaps more absurd than that there's a God who created it?
I think I get off with you on that step precisely because I'm like, well, consider our options. Either everything just happened, for whatever reason, its own little reasons, or there was also a God that happened to happen and he caused everything for his own reasons. I'm like, well, I feel like everything just happening is a little bit more plausible,
But, you can't just say, like, okay, so we say, out of nothing, a bunch of things happen for their own little reasons. Like,
ex nihilo, we might say, if you wanted to.
Yeah, but, at some point there has to be an uncaused cause.
All right, I'm loading my prefrontal cortex thoughts about this matter. An uncaused cause. Yeah.
Like when you go down the Tower of Turtles, there has to be a turtle at the bottom. You can't just have turtles all the way up.
Down. I mean, if I can slip a sneaky little one past you, I think that's just like a brute cause, and I accept that some of those have to happen.
So the question is, what's the most plausible root cause?
Sure. I said brute instead of root, but sure.
I thought you might have said that, but then I was like, root seems more like what I'm thinking of.
This is the big difference, man, between you and me.
A2 Brute.
Yeah, so true, so true.
So true, Brute.
Hey, Drew Brute. Yeah. Right. I mean, please go on. Go on. I don't want to interrupt you before.
I mean, it just seems like
a chance for edification.
It just seems like, everything, matter, time, and stuff just emerging in a big blast of matter and energy.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, randomly. It's like it's a very, it's very complicated. Like it starts out with a single point, perhaps, but like even in that single initial beginning, there are a lot of things happening. There's instantiation of time and matter and energy and all this stuff. Versus if we say in the beginning there was God, before time and matter and space and all this stuff, we can imagine a supremely simple being.
Would it be
that then has the power to create other things?
Would it be simple though? Because to me it kind of seems like a guy who makes a bunch of other stuff happen, which is kind of the antithesis of simplicity in a sense.
Well, it depends on what you mean by a guy.
Yeah.
It's not like a person, not like a human with a brain. There's no brain going on.
But what is it then? Because I feel like most people who believe in God basically believe in kind of a brain theory of God, if you will.
Well, it's a little bit difficult to describe God.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But we can sort of, I mean, I think perhaps the most principled thing to do be to consider, if possible, what sort of being must necessarily have been the original being and creator of all things, and then see if that is up with what we have.
I mean, I'm kind of with you.
But that's like...
Go ahead.
I know, you go ahead.
Well, I'm kind of with you, but like most of the accounts of such a necessary being, I'm like, well, that doesn't seem very likely to me, man. You know, it's like, oh, perfectly good. Oh, you're including the moral property of goodness in here? Don't know about that one. That seems very related to my human desires, quite frankly.
I think it's the other way around. Like, our concept of goodness is based on who/what God is, not the other way around.
I mean, I would say that's semi-plausible. Because, like, if there is a God, per hypothesis, then, like, yeah, probably, right? It would probably resolve all those questions, but in terms of, like, I'm just a funny little guy who evolved in a funny little way, that kind of seems like, well, look, there's a bunch of shit going on, and you probably don't approve of it, but that's because you were evolved to enjoy the people related to you prospering and the people not related to you. I guess whatever the term is for zero consideration. Sorry, that's a little bit unclear, but I hope it serves to further the conversation.
You lost me a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
Like, are you saying, like, I don't know what the relevance to the prior conversation of the nature of humans to care more about the people close to them was.
Well, obviously, the things I care a lot about sort of appear to me as salient things, right? So if we imagine, like, you know, for whatever reason, a bunch of random matter appeared, and then it sort of evolved via the process of evolution, what have you, then I would have a lot of convictions about what was good and bad, which I do, you know, for real. I'm not trying to weasel out of those. Whatever. I would have a lot of convictions about what was good and bad. And then I would think, like, well, you know, I believe in what's good and bad because of the process that created me, which was... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just making a noise of comprehension.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, you know, all of these things are disputable on multiple levels if you really want to get down to it. So I wouldn't blame you for jumping in at any point. But, like, you know, I want things that are good for me, and I want things that are good for basically everybody. Mostly because many of those people are related to me. They create offspring. I mean, in a because sense of, like, how it happened, right? You know, I've sort of transcended that in a certain limited sense. But, like, yeah, I want things to happen to people. I want people to be happy, so on and so forth. But, like, you know, do I look at the grand sweep of natural history and think, great stuff happening by a guy who cares about us? Not really, you know? What do you think about that? I'm curious.
Sounds like there were 2 points. I got 2 main points out of that. One of which was human concept of goodness is not evidence for a good God, because we could just have an idea of goodness for other reasons, which is totally fair. And
well, if I can interrupt you without you being forced to lose your train of thought, I do think there's a significant, I want to say necessary, I'm not sure if it's like logically necessary, connection between the concept of a good God and like how we live in the world and experience goodness. It seems like it has to be related in some way, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, I just want to throw that out there. You can proceed.
Yeah. So anyway, I basically saying I didn't have a problem with the first point as I understood it. But the question of, sounded like the second point was essentially like, why would a good God allow bad things to happen?
Fair enough.
Or why would he create a world in which bad things happen? Is that
sure?
Which is a common question.
Yes.
And a difficult one too.
It's really like the question, you know?
My understanding of it essentially boils down to the good that is being done in the world is at a larger scale than is usually comprehended. And the bad things that happen in the world are bad locally, but don't necessarily actually matter in the grand scheme. So like if I, to scale things down considerably, like, if I okay, because I'm too sleepy to come up with a good specific example, so I'll come up with a general example. So like, you try something and you experience pain, but you don't die, and then you learn that the thing you tried to do is dangerous and you don't do it again. Like, the pain you experienced in the moment is bad, but then actually overall it's good because it helps you. Right. So in the same way, things that are bad in the world are bad locally, but then overall it's like actually a way that doesn't matter. Like,
this is sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I want to hear what you say next.
Yeah, my next thing that I would say, which I'm always drawn to, even though it's kind of like an abandonment of the most defensible line of argument or whatever. I'm like, why couldn't it all be good? You know? You're literally God. Imagine you're literally God. Try not to die of sacrilegion or whatever. You know? Hubris. I don't even know what the word is. When you imagine being literally God, you're like, why couldn't I just make it all good? Some of it, obviously, some of it is like, good is the opposite of bad, that's necessary, whatever. But why do you have to make a world where bad things ever happen? Just make only good things and the absence of good things happen. And there you go. That would be a funner world, you know?
Would it though?
I think so. Like, the zero could be nothing cool is happening. And then the maximum could be everything cool is happening. That would be better than our current world. Surely you've experienced it, where the minimum is like negative good things, like bad things are happening actually. Like a new type of like badness has been invented, and it's going on independent of the absence of good. This is my main disagreement with various strains of theology. where I'm like, actually, badness is independent of goodness, because you could just have zero goodness and just be like hanging out. Anyway, I think that was a question. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. I think, well, I don't know if I can answer directly, but I have some things I can say which might be interesting fodder for the conversation.
Sure.
It might also answer the question. What they tell me is, / what I've read in books is, like, yes, God could have made such a world. However, that world would have a lower possible maximum because it wouldn't enable us to become as similar to God as he wants. So, like, in creating humans, he wasn't just like creating a bunch of little critters to run around and do stuff. He was created beings that could, with his help, ascend to become, to be in communion with him, to share in his love, and not to be on a level with him, but to
you can say
become more like
God.
him.
I accept theosis. Don't worry about it.
But it's not really becoming God. It's like
boo, boo.
Little g. Anyway. But in any case, like, you can't have that with a being that doesn't have free will, right? Has to be able to choose to do good. Has to be able to choose to do God's will. And for a being with free will to be guided to use that properly, it has to have has to be in a world where it can experience the opposite so that it knows which direction to go, basically. Like, if you're just sitting around in a world where everything is fine, you're pushed to reach higher, basically.
I think you would be. I think, as a basic philosophical premise, if you lived in a world where things could be good or not good, that would be basically equivalent to living in a world where things are good or bad. I mean, you could hypothesize, like, oh, we had to put badness in there so that you would really be motivated to become God. I'm slipping in my own theosistical vision in there. Don't worry. But, like, would it? I think if things were just like, well, it could be better, then people sort of have a natural drive. Some people, at least, have a natural drive to make things better than that. You feel me?
Yes. I think what if we are in that world, but because the not good is the worst thing we know, it's like super bad.
I've considered that, and it has a sort of intellectual appeal, but like, you just sort of perceive it and right? It's not like when you perceive the color red, you're like, well, this is just the least blue thing I've ever perceived. You're like, well, this is red, and it's not blue. And if someone had simply engineered a way to make things not blue, that would be its own thing. But this is red in its own way.
So like, okay, so let's imagine the world where baseline everything is fine but not amazing.
Sure.
And then there's
God, I want to go there.
to, like,
sorry, what was that?
make things amazing. Okay, so imagine you're in that world and you're like feel the drive to make things better.
Yes.
Because you're like, it could be better though. And so you work really hard and you and your friends get together and try to make things better. But then like, something happens, it doesn't work out. Things end up being fine again. You'd be like, gosh dang it. We tried so hard to make things better and it didn't work. All that wasted effort. Wouldn't that seem bad to you instead of fine? Even though technically things would still be fine.
I mean, I think it would just kind of seem like what it was, right? Which was like, well, suboptimal, but things are still, okay, but they could be better. I feel like there's a very qualitative difference between those two things, Like you can simply perceive evil. And you can perceive, like, oh, this is like not as good as it could be. And not as good as it could be is still a reason to improve things. But thinking that evil is a reason... Sorry. Thinking that evil is like an equivalent thing just strikes me as implausible.
Yeah. Okay, here's another angle or a different approach.
I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom before too long, but just warning you. Go ahead.
What if? Okay, so imagine you have this hypothetical fine world.
Oh.
And there's a being with free will.
Okay.
And the being is like, actually, I would like to do everything I can to make other people as far from the most happy they could be as possible.
You mean suffer? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Okay. Except for I don't know if suffering exists in this world. So like...
Okay. Go ahead.
If someone uses their free will to decide to make other people suffer, like, is the solution actually there's no such thing as suffering, sorry? Or is the solution they try but they fail? Or is the solution their free will doesn't include that option?
I'm a little bit confused as to what the question is, because I think you could have a world...
My question is, how does the world remain fine?
Yeah, I think God could construct a universe, per hypothesis, where there's only goodness and no badness, but there is privation of badness. A point where I differ from, like, Thomas Aquinas or whatever, is I don't think badness is simply the privation of goodness. I think it exists on its own ontological basis. And I think you could have a universe where things that are good simply like fail to happen, and like, Snidely Whiplash, the guy you're imagining, is like, ooh, I've prevented the birthday party from going off without a hitch, ergo goodness has been prevented. I'm a villain. But then at the end of the day, people would simply be hanging out and going like, oh, this is all right. I don't know. Maybe this is my novel contribution to philosophy, because I've told this to people and they were like, now that you mention it, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe Maybe it's quite disputable, though. I notice you're silent. I'm gonna use the restroom in this period.
Okay.
Hey, I'm back.
Back.
Nice. I guess I was thinking to myself, like, this rabbit hole I'm down is interesting, but really the main point is like, I don't know. If we imagine God as a guy who's making things for a purpose, do we really think that the extent of goodness and badness in the universe is like, oh, you definitely had to have that. There was no way for you to do whatever it is he was trying to do without that. No, keep that stuff in. I don't know. I don't really think so. I imagine you're trying to determine the identity of sailors at this point, so you might be a little distracted.
I'm mostly pondering our conversation, but I'm also staring at a picture of a man whose leg has been amputated, trying to figure out what exactly to put down.
Sucks to be him. Really makes you think about the nature of goodness and so forth.
Yeah. No, really. It's very poetic.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, like, okay, You have a world in which people have free will, but there's no badness.
Yeah.
In this world, can a person decide that they want to do things that are contrary to the will of God?
I think so, but it would only result in a mild downside.
I would argue that the moment that someone's made that choice, there's already badness in the world, because it's bad for a person to have their will contrary to God's will.
I mean,
mitigating consequences of that is already like, we've already got bad in the world. So like, why bother? I mean, not why bother, but like, you know. It's no longer doing the job it was supposed to do if we allowed people to be bad in their hearts.
I don't know if I share that intuition or can really give a convincing explanation of why I don't really find that moving. But like, I don't know, here's a random example. We'll try this out. Like if you were caring for someone with a diminished intellectual capacity, not like disabled or anything, but like, you know, just a guy who's dumb. You know, sometimes he would do some stuff that wasn't in line with the good. We're imagining your God again, once again. And you're like, I see instead of what I wanted, which is necessarily good by whatever formulation we've figured out, you've decided to do, you know, your own mistaken ideas about what should be done. And then, you know, how bad should that be for them? I think maybe like a bit. Maybe so they go, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. That other guy was talking about that thing that, yeah, and it's the whole, yeah, like goodness. So I find that doing this thing I'm doing, I'm not really interested in it at all. You know, it's just kind of like what the hell was I doing? You know?
Okay, but like, that's obviously that's not enough to deter people from doing bad things.
Wouldn't they get bored?
You'd think.
Yeah, I think they do. I think they do. I think they... Sorry, go ahead.
Well, like, observe the world we live in.
Yeah, but the world
we live in... People do bad things with all kinds of crazy bad consequences, and they still don't turn from grace.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I generally think, like, you know, you're talking about people with the full force of real badness in front of them, and they aren't even deterred by that. So, like, certainly God, in his omnipotent wisdom, would have made that more deterring and less bad. You know? He should just tweak those things. What the fuck, Nintendo, as they say. Humans are not very strong. I think they could be persuaded. I don't know. Do you have like a mono universal view of theodicy? Like, this is the only universe that is occurring, and therefore we need to explain the facts about it? That might be a crazy question.
When you said theodicy, is that a word I don't know, or is that the Odyssey?
It is the word theodicy. I don't know if it's a word you don't know because you said, "Is that a word I don't know?" And then you said the word. So
I couldn't tell if you were saying one word or two words, but it sounds like you were saying one.
One
is
word.
A word I don't know.
It's basically the resolution to the problem of evil is theodicy. It's spelled with a D and an ICEY after the THE. It's just
I was guessing an ACY.
Theodicy. Nah. Nobody's tried that one. Anyway, this is kind of a crazy question because I got all my multiversal views from Scott Alexander, who is not a significant source of theodicy anyway. But theodicy is the question of like why does evil happen? How about that, huh? That's pretty weird. What's up with that?
Yeah. In general, I'm like, multiverse is not a thing. Don't think about it. And then occasionally I'm like, maybe there is a way that multiverse is a thing, actually. But I don't think it's necessarily in any case.
I think if we can divulge into a flight of fancy for a while, I feel like it's pretty important for mounting a certain defense of theodicy, because certain theodicies are like, well, some universes are better than not existing at all. Ergo, they would exist. But I don't know, it seems to rely on a lot of premises of like a bunch of things happening that we can't observe and can't even know about in principle. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I got a bridge to sell you. So, I don't believe in them very strongly. Although I do sometimes think about them as an interesting thing to think about.
Sometimes I wonder if, like, each person gets their own path through the multiverse.
What would that mean?
Like, when a person comes into being,
okay,
they, like, from that point on, obviously there are a bunch of branching realities. And in each of those realities, they will eventually die. And in one of those realities, they will be in the best spiritual state at their death. And maybe that reality is the one that they get to be, is like they get to claim as like that was their life. And then in the course of their life, they'll experience other people, they'll interact with other people who are not in their best path, but those people that they're interacting with, like, that's okay that that's not their best path because they get to claim their actual best path elsewhere in a different multiverse, or a different timeline. And so from any one person's perspective, it seems like things are going badly. But and you get to the end and you're like, actually that was hard.
Yeah, it's like N choose one. Like, we picked the best one. Don't even worry about it, boss.
Clearly this is not my position, but it's an interesting thing.
Fair enough. I like to think of that position. Maybe I'm even more towards it than yourself. I'm like, wait a minute. What if we have a lot of chances? What is a chance? Nobody really knows. Don't worry about it. And what if these things occurred according to those chances, and then you just take the best one? QED. Don't even worry about it, boss.
But then you think about, like, okay, if in my not my best path,
Yeah.
I have a child.
Okay.
That child still exists as a person, even though that never happened in my life. So each person has, like, infinite children.
Bold.
Who then each have like whatever starting point they have. So then if you have children, I don't know, this essentially results in like infinite people instantly, which could be interesting.
I think here's the problem. I think the preferential ordering of futures depends on how many children you have. No matter what else is going on, the more children you have, the better the future in God's eyes. You know?
I don't really see how that would change. I mean, obviously that would change some things, but like, I'm not sure that, yeah. That wouldn't change the number of people being created. Theoretically.
I mean, you know, John Prime over in the other universe gets to get folded into John Prime, who has 72 children, and he's like, well, that's pretty good. Fair enough. I don't know. Maybe he wakes up one day, you know? He's like, my 72 beautiful children. Only a few of whom are incapable of living the life that humanity thrusts upon them. A great ratio.
Problem with the multiverse thing is if every splitting point, you know, both outcomes occur, or all outcomes occur, then there basically is no free will.
Yeah.
Because like you can choose to do something, but then another version of you chose the other way. So
I basically don't believe in free will, except as like a figure of speech, you know? Like, listen, if in 99 times out of 100 you would choose X instead of Y, that's what's gonna happen, my man. There you go. What do you want from me? You were in the pilot seat the whole time, man.
It's a mystery.
What's mysterious about it?
What's mysterious is how is free will?
I think it's just will in a proper manner of speaking, you know? A certain number of things conspire to create your person, and then you do things based on your mind. But your mind is a product of the circumstances that created it. And of course, certain untensed, if you will, facts about reason and so forth. But then you do what your past has created you to do. and you live the best you can. But in the end, circumstances that created you created the man that you would be. By the way, I've completely given up playing the game I was playing, and I'm simply lying in bed. I don't know what you're up to with regards to Obra Dinn, but I figure I'll just...
I'm wandering around looking at the pattern of the lamp on the wall.
Classic Obra Dinn emotion. A classic Obra Dinn emotion. I'm probably just gonna fall asleep. This will probably go on for like 3 hours, and then I'll stumble over and like hit stop, and then I'll stumble back. But you know.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit, as they say.
Flashy falls asleep live on stream.
Yes. Time is cheap, man. The bytes that record time is cheap. We just deconnected and reconnected, but probably you can still hear me. Yeah, I just heard you, so. You know, sorry, the numerical puzzles I was doing were not that interesting, so. Discussing the very font of reality, which, by the way, I think is just my basic predisposition. It's just like brute circumstance. Like a bunch of stuff happened. We can't really understand why it happened, but you know, that's just a fault of our human existence. That's my basic outlook. That's no problem. Or is it? Anyway, mine colliding with yours, which we could really drill down on. I don't know if I'd do a great job about it, but I often think like, God? That seems like a mind. A mind has many parts. Many parts are not simple. QED. I don't know how you think about it, personally. If
yeah,
at
it's
all.
hard to say.
Fair enough. Fair enough. The first time I went to an Orthodox church service, I thought, wow, so beautiful. And the second time I thought, I'm kind of bored, actually. You can take from that what you will. You can take from that.
Bored is part of the process.
Is it?
Can be.
Question : real ? Is it?
Can be.
I'm a little bit more credulous than all of my kin. And if, by standing in Vespers, you might call it, for an hour, I would then believe in the transcendent truth of the all-holy God, I'd be willing to try that out. It did not occur the one time I tried it, but that might have been more like 45 minutes. So, you know. You know, I'm not prejudiced. If they're like, no, you gotta do it for an hour, I'd do it for an hour. If they were like 10 hours, I'd be like, you're joking. You know.
I mean, it's gonna vary from person to person.
Fuck!
Some people, it might not matter how long you stand there. Yeah, like, depends on where you're at.
Let me tell you the funny thing.
Yeah.
We could go on to like the transcendent thing later, if such a thing is available. But the first time I went to an Orthodox church, I was like, oh, it's so beautiful. I'm having such an experience. And the second time, I was like, this is pretty boring. I've seen it all before, actually. And then, specifically, this time, the priest came out to give a homily and told us about the difference between, the Trinity and the nature and the spirit and the so forth. And I was like, nice. But I did not convert to Orthodox Christianity in this moment. What are you up to? Looking at a sailor?
Right now I'm looking at a list of fates, trying to figure out which one best describes what I've recently decided I would like to claim this man died of.
What's that?
The doctor amputated his leg.
I don't know.
So I'm going to pin the murder on the doctor.
You think that when a doctor amputates a leg, there's a trail of blood coming off of that?
Yes.
No. Does that help?
Okay, so here, listen to this.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the scene. Actually, I might as well stream it so you can look at it again. Refresh your memory.
I'm not going to.
Okay, that's right.
That helps.
Okay. So, that does help. So, he's lying there with the pool of blood around his leg, right?
Yeah.
And then there's
he's in the hole, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the cargo hold, and he's got a doctor looking at him.
I remember this.
There are two other guys by there. Okay, so but like a meter away from his leg is a sword lying on the ground with some blood around it.
Yeah.
This to me indicates that perhaps his leg was cut off with. Perhaps.
But it would be possible. Well, yes. After the bleeding, it could be sawed off and cauterized. No doubt. But that wouldn't cause death. That would prevent death. If
you never know.
Successfully performed.
It also looks like he's missing his hand, but it's hard to tell for sure.
Fair enough. Man, what a twist. I mean, I played Obra Dinn, and when I got to the final twist, I was like, is that it? That's all you got for me? End of sentence.
But me, I'm on the last fate before presumably I get to look at the last two of the last chapter, and I'm just stuck on it. Because like my first guess is he was torn apart by a monster. Nope.
Okay.
Apparently not.
No, not
I also
right.
guessed that the Persian guy cut off his leg and was responsible. Not considered accurate.
Fuck you.
Because there's a scimitar nearby. Anyway, it's not really. I guess it's not really the scimitar. Actually, it's just. Let me
give you a full-throated. Although again, there's a video game playing on my screen, broadcasting to the world, no one of whom is watching. You should play The Root Trees Are Dead. It's a great game. Anyway, now that we're done with that. Sorry.
Bless you.
That one's on me. Now that we're done with that. Just play in the space. Don't even worry about it. Just be like, oh. Guy, no leg. What could be related? No leg. Select no leg. Select dismemberment. I don't even know if that's real. An option.
I didn't see either of those options. Obviously.
That would be far too broad. That would be like every guy is dismembered. He was fine until the Kraken separated his body from his head. Ergo.
Well, they do have like torn apart. They do have beheaded.
Yeah.
They don't seem to have. And I did use Torn Apart by a Monster for the Austrian boatsman. And it worked because his arm had been torn off or something.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's not clear how this guy's leg came off.
Why are you complaining then?
His calf.
What's the freaking problem? Was that not him?
Problem.
Was he not torn apart?
Problem is when I tried Torn Apart on this guy, it didn't confirm. So it didn't work. You know what I'm saying? It was like it didn't confirm that I had done his fate properly. So it's like it makes me wonder what is the correct choice here? If not torn to pieces by the monster.
This goes back to the thing I inadequately expressed earlier, which is this is the one game where you have to identify cause of death. And then the cause of death is well, he seems to have bled out from an injury resulting in his lower leg being separated from his body. And the options are torn apart by a monster, just died of indolence or something, etc., etc.
So true.
Yeah. Hold on a minute. I'm going to turn off the light in my kitchen. I'm gathering my strength. I'm going to get up and then saunter back.
Wow. Not if there could be some clue in this room that I'm prevented from entering if I just peer around it. Just look around in this room. No clues there. I feel like it must be really obvious and I'm just being a dumb idiot, but I don't know. Somebody stole this guy's leg. Who or why did this? It's impossible to say.
We're so back.
Nice.
Yeah, I was thinking should I end the stream? No, nobody cares. This costs 3 cents out of Jeff Bezos's wallet or whatever.
Sure.
When God, that guy we were talking about, finally evaluates